Hey guys, today we're talking about the Riga Synths SDIY swamp module, and it's a very, very cool module. Of course, this is modeled after the Wiard Wogglebug, which is a staple in West Coast synthesis and beyond. And we're going to kind of go through a little bit of a demonstration. It's kind of a tricky module in some ways because there are some, many things going on that are kind of random and whatnot. And so it can be kind of, can be tricky. So we're going to try to go through things in order so you have a better understanding of what's going on. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the rate knob. And you can see this LED corresponds with the rate. And that's going to be it's the change to the internal clock, and the frequency of the random is going to change based upon where this knob is set. Also, of course, you can put a clock input here that will allow you to change that there, as well as you can do a CV over that, of course. So if you want that to change based upon your CV instead of an actual incoming clock. Clock in, clock out, CV in, those all affect the clock. Except for here, we have an audio input, as you can see, and that audio input we'll get into here, but it basically takes over the tone. So you've got two different oscillators here. You've got a tone and a swamp oscillator. Why they're called that exactly, I don't know, but I'm sure there's a really cool reason, and maybe the Wogglebug started it off. So what we have first started off here is we'll turn on, we've got a patch coming out of the tone, so you can hear what that sounds like. And you've got three different waveforms sort of here that affect the tone. Let's go up. That is a square wave. All the way down is a triangle, and in the middle is a combination of the two. Now, if we unplug that and go into the swamp, we're going to notice that we have something almost identical over here, which goes through a couple different waveforms there too. So you can hear that, right? And you got a pulse, and then you've got your triangle, and the middle is a combination of the two. So yeah, it gives you two different waveforms, and then those things output into other audio outputs. Now, of course, the tone and the swamp are just audio outputs, which can be nice if you're going to make like different sounds or whatever the case is. And then we also have one more audio output here, and that is the ring modular output. So that's a combination of the tone and the swamp oscillators. And let's hear what that sounds like. And if we make some movement, right? So, it's kind of a ring modi thing there, of course. You know what that is. And then if we take another external oscillator, put it in the audio in, and then I can adjust that externally. That's not going to be changing how the swamp/Wogglebug works here. So let's get a little bit more into the things that you need to have changed in order to make sound with these three outputs. So let's of course start here with the tone first. Of course, we haven't done anything. We're not modulating anything. We're not changing anything. We've got a really slow clock right here, slow rate, internal clock. You can see that change, right? So a couple of things we need to turn up first. Cluster, and it's going to be how much random change happens. So you need to turn that up a little bit. And then we also want to turn up the smooth range. This is just going to be the range of CV affecting that tone here. So obviously where those random sample and holds are hitting on the tone. Cluster is going to give you a better range as well, how much random change is going to happen there. That's also going to affect your smooth out and your swamp out, for these are CV outs right here. Okay, neato, okay, right? So now let's plug into the tone again, the swamp again. And we have some smooth range. We also need to turn up the swamp range now. And the swamp range defines the range of CV changes that happen on the swamp output as well as the swamp CV output. Those are affected by the same CV, essentially. Okay, cool. And of course, ring mod again. This is going to be how you change those things. Rate CV here, this attenuator is going to be Let's turn all these things down again to get a little better understanding. Rate CV knob affects that CV input over the clock. So let's go to tone here again. We got a tone. Let's bring in a clock from my MST VC LFO. That's going to be, excuse me, let's not do that. Let's put a sequencer in here. And let's turn up some of these things so we get a little bit of sound. We don't need that one up. But this is going to change my clock based upon CV input here. You can't see my sequencer, but that's what that's going to do. Otherwise, if you want it to be more straight, it's going to be affected. In fact, let's do this. Let's plug into the clock output, and you'll be able to kind of barely hear that. But it's going to be static. Let's turn that up. I can probably hear that better now. And let's put this sequence from my sequence 8 into the CV in. But it's going to be changing the clock based upon CV now. And this is going to attenuate how much. This might even go to audio rate. That overrides that, so let's turn that down a little bit. Okay. Okay. So you can see there that CV input, this knob is really only used to attenuate how much CV is coming in and how much it's going to affect your clock. Okay. So as you saw, right, tone, it's affected by this, tone oscillator is affected here by the tone wave selection switch for either triangle, mix between triangle and pulse. Same thing for the swamp output here too, right? But it's got its own control. And then they mix together with the ring modulator, and that's what kind of gives you the ring modulation sound. However, if you take an external oscillator, plug it into the audio in here, it's going to replace that, so you're going to get out of the ring modulation. You're going to get that sound from your oscillator out there. Okay. Okay, because the swamp here, Wogglebug, it has, you know, not necessarily traditional nomenclature. Sometimes it can be hard to understand exactly what's happening, like I said. So let's look at the tone here. We're gonna take the tone output and see the controls that affect the tone only. So let's plug that in. Everything's turned down, right? So of course the clock's going to affect it once we get going. Of course this controls the tone waveform. But what we need to turn up to make this thing function is the cluster to some degree. And we need to turn the smooth range. That's going to be the range of the VCO. Now the swamp is affected by the cluster, the smooth range, and the swamp range. Kind of gives it a higher end of that. And of course the ring mod is going to be affected by all those, both of all these 1, 2, 3 different knobs here with the rate knob, of course. Okay, let's get into the smooth CV into our VCO. Doesn't have a really huge range output, does it? It's got a little bit. And this smooth range here is what's going to be affecting that. Let's turn this down because you don't need that. Cluster we need in there to kind of give us some time in between those CV changes here too. Crank it and go really hard. Okay, as we turn the cluster up, that's going to happen a little faster. Okay, and we're going to want to contrast the swamp out, which is, you know, it's got a real loosey-goosey kind of feel here. And we're going to plug into the stepped CV output and hear how that's different. So a lot more like a normal sample and hold here, right? Of course, we're going to affect our range. If we turn all these down, we don't got much range, do we? Let's give ourselves a little more. I don't know if the time affects that at all, actually. Also, I was watching a video, let's turn this off, by Richard Devine, and he said that using some of those step CV outs or the swamp CV out or even the smooth CV out allows you to use that as a clock and has a really, really cool random clock feature if you just want to use those CV outs instead of using a traditional clock output. Anyway, Swamp module is a Wogglebug. It gives you a lot of opportunities for random voltage, sample and hold, ring modulation. Of course, you can put an external audio input into there. Random clocks. You can control the clock yourself by CV in or external clock. It's kind of a central piece of equipment, I would say, in West Coast synthesis. And either which way, I don't care what kind of synthesis you're doing, you're really going to enjoy it. Thanks for checking it out. Of course, Synthrotech has full kits. We've got completed modules, and you can get this other places online as well.